Do you ever wonder how great leaders in the community make things happen? When they encounter new, unexpected challenges like a pandemic, how do they continue to successfully make an impact? Welcome to That Sounds Terrific, the podcast that connects you with these amazing people. Get insights on what they do to meet their goals, find out how you can help them in their mission, and learn their methods so you can be more successful at what you do. Welcome to That Sounds Terrific with host Nick Koziol.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of That Sounds Terrific. I am really excited to have Mona Ockenden with me today from Mona Moon Naturals. Thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
This has been a long time coming.
It has.
Behind the scenes, we have rescheduled a couple times for some, pretty hard reasons and some changes in schedule. I'm so glad to, have you on the show. And then I heard that you actually had something else kind of come up and you decided to be on the show, and I love it. So thank you so much.
This was the priority of the day. So yes, absolutely.
Well, thank you for being here, Mona. And why don't you just start off by telling us a little bit about, what you do and kind of who you are?
Sure. So I am the founder of Mona Moon Naturals, and we are a natural skincare company. We are based in Fairport, New York. Mona Moon Naturals was never a business that I had ever in a million years. If somebody ever say you'd have a natural skincare company, I'd say you're bananas. But several years ago, my sister was diagnosed with breast cancer. And it was during her diagnosis and her recovery that we really uncovered and learned a lot about chemicals in our skincare products, as well as cleaning products, and a number of places where they're hidden where we wouldn't think that. So as I personally was transitioning to finding cleaner and safer products for myself and family to use, I could not find natural deodorant that worked. So after some time, a friend of my son at my son's school, one of the moms, she sold essential oils, and she had a deodorant paste recipe that she shared with me. So I started making that for myself and modifying it based on my needs. And I just started sharing it with friends and family. So every 3 months, I'm like, hey, making deodorant this weekend, once in kind of a thing. And after a couple of years, and some encouragement from some great friends, we really decided to start a company. So we launched officially online in March of 2019. It really wasn't until later in 19 that I had left my full-time, corporate life to really focus on building Mona Moon.
Oh, very, very cool. I'm sorry that your sister had to go through that journey. But it looks like some positivity came out of it.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
So where did the name come from, the Mona Moon?
So actually, a friend of mine, her name is Rini. We were in a president's mastermind group. We were at a retreat, and it was at that retreat that I kind of like got the first push from the girls to say, okay, you have to do this. She actually came back with the name, and she also came up with the original, or the concept design of the Mona Moon Naturals. She herself is a breast cancer survivor, so it's even more fitting that it was Rini who, kind of created the name and the beginnings of our logo. So it was very, very close to my heart that she did that.
Well, that's a great story, and
I
love the design of your shirt. That's awesome.
It's normally always in white. I have a friend, a college friend, who makes T-shirts on the side, and he surprised me and sent it with this groovy kind of coloring. So
that's super cool, though.
Yeah. I'm getting a lot of requests for it, so we may have to put some in production for folks.
Put it in this. We'll put that in the show notes too, because for those of you that can't see it, you definitely have to jump.
Somebody can see it. It's very groovy.
It's an awesome shirt, and I love the name, so that's why I was asking.
Thank you.
I mean, obviously, your first name's in there, but I was wondering if where it came from. So that's great. But kind of getting back to something you said during your intro there, you never really know like what's in like anything nowadays, there's so many preservatives like in foods and things like that. So the chemicals and stuff and that we put in our bodies or on our bodies, are crazy names that I can never pronounce. And it's great that we have products like yours to that are more natural. So you gave us a little bit of the story about how like you came up with your first recipe, but what really went into that? Well, how did you decide to tweak things, and you know how long did
So
that
for
take?
myself, yeah, so for myself personally, I have a lot of skin issues and sensitivity. So the initial recipe, I was getting a little bit of a rash, which really is from the amount of baking soda that was in there. So then I started changing around because the original recipe had cornstarch and baking soda. And then I just started to flip it around and I actually changed to arrowroot powder because it's a less abrasive ingredient, and started playing with the levels of the baking soda. And I had a group of maybe 10 friends and family. So that would use the deodorant. So I would make a batch and send it out to everyone and say, okay, I have like 4 or 5 questions. Okay, how did you like it? Did you get a rash? Just tried to find out if it worked for them, didn't work for them, so on and so forth. From that, I actually created a second deodorant. So I had a basic formula, which most people can use, and then a sensitive blend where I added shea butter in there just because it's a little bit more softer. So that's kind of how, for about a year, I probably did that to come up with a couple different options of offerings for the deodorant. So, and I have a notebook, and I still use that same method when I launch any product. And I usually will launch a product if I get a lot of requests for certain things. So I'll, do research, find several formulas, look at what I have ingredient wise and make it that way, and then start the process. Hey, what do you guys think about this? What do you like about the smell? How it feels? All of those kinds of things. So we can kind of hone it in and make it a monomoon product.
Yeah. Did you know that you kind of had this marketing testing group at the time when you were like it sounds
No.
like it was very organized. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
and that was
Yeah.
just your personality maybe,
It's
right?
yeah, I'm an engineer by schooling, so I think that's just how my brain works. I still have the same notebook, and
Hmm.
in there I would put notes. So and so had a rash. So from there, or I had a customer who, when we were fully launched online, and she kept breaking out in rashes, very similar to how I had been, breaking out in rashes. And through research with her, and she allowed me to be the guinea pig, for lack of a better way to say, the test person.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of people have sensitivity to lavender essential oils, and we didn't realize that, but because of what was happening with her, did more research, and I'm like, yep, lo and behold. So she's totally fine staying away from our lavender
Yeah.
products. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and it's interesting, and it's a lot of fun. But I see the benefits um,
Yeah. And I
that it
love
has for people.
And I love the individual approach that you have to things where you're willing to kind of change some product lines to accommodate for
Sure,
different
sure.
individuals that have challenges because we're all different, right?
Yeah, I have, and I'll do that. I have a family. They have nut allergies, and their kids really wanted to have our body butter, so we modified it. I said to the mom, "Here's the ingredients I have. Tell me what I can use and can't use," and we created a nut-free body
Yeah.
butter just for them. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that's terrific. I mean, some
yeah.
people have really serious nut allergies. I had a friend who was very allergic to peanuts or really any nut. And one time
Hmm.
we had homemade candy in our mailboxes, and like everybody's eating it, I'm eating it and stuff. And she's like, "Oh, candy!" And she went to pop it in her mouth, and I remember I almost slapped it out of her hand
Yeah,
because there was peanut butter in it, and like at the time, I didn't even realize she could have a reaction to just being breathed
being
on.
around it, yeah.
So, she was like, "You saved my life." I'm like, "Well, I wouldn't go that far, but, I did almost hit you too." So, "You saved my life and, you're under
Yes,
arrest for assault."
yeah.
So, but I think, like I said, I love the individual approach. I knew that a little bit about, you before I brought you on the show in regards to that, because I think that that is something that, a lot of businesses in this area aren't willing to do, change their formula or mess with the things, right? So that's great. So about, forgive me, I don't know, like how many products do you have now? How many product lines do you have?
We sell, we have our deodorants. We have them in a deodorant paste form, which is how we originally started, that you apply with your hands, your fingers, and then we have a deodorant stick. Also, we have body butters. We have a couple versions of body butters, also a couple different scent blends for them. We have one of our biggest sellers is our lip balms. So we have all of our lip balms. We have 4 flavors of that. We have a this one was a surprise one. We did it out of necessity for our dog. I made paw balm for him. He has really dry pads, and
Yeah.
we needed to buy some for him. And everything I'm reading, it says, don't let your dogs lick. I'm like,
Mm,
how can you tell your dog not? How do you do that without
yeah.
putting a cone on their head?
My dog will lick
So
lick the bitter spray. It likes the
absolutely,
bitter stuff. Like,
yeah,
yeah, the stuff they're not supposed to lick.
right.
Yeah.
So did my research, did what I could, and we now have paw balm that the dogs can lick. It's safe for them. It's non-toxic. But then that's one of our biggest sellers right now.
Sure. Sure. I mean,
Um,
people are go crazy over their pets. I'm sure that you have
they
a
do.
bunch of different lines that you could do where there, and
Yeah,
having a natural approach to it, also super important for a lot of these what I would call crazy pet owners.
it is. Yeah. And it's even great because it's versatile. The paw balm, we can use it for
Yeah,
ourselves for any of our dry patches, our feet, our elbows, yeah.
awesome.
Wintertime, another big one for us actually is our hand balm.
Hmm.
I actually created that for my daughter. She's a school teacher. So during the pandemic, between washing her hands and sanitizing, her hands were, pretty rough. So during that
Yeah.
time, we made a paw balm, or a hand balm for
For my
adults.
daughter. Well,
Yes, yes,
in this day and age, everybody's, got their furry babies too. So,
absolutely,
but
absolutely. So
your human daughter. Okay, cool.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, my wife is also a teacher, and that is one of the things that happens so frequently. And the soap, she's brought her own soap into
yeah.
school because the soap that they have is so harsh on skin. But yeah, so we'll have to, I think I'm gonna be have to make a sizable order after the
Sure,
show.
sure. I can hook you up. I know somebody that can help you out.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Um, so all right, well, how, you talked about being an engineer, you talked about like a little bit about your process, but how do you really go about like, starting a new product line? Like what really goes into all that, and how quick is your turnaround, that kind of stuff? Like if I were to say I really want a different scent or something like that, like how long could that take?
To have a different scent doesn't take long at all. And
Okay.
that I do that for specialty orders. If
All the
I'm going
time.
to white label something for another business,
Okay.
where they have their own scent. There's a esthetician out in California that I created a special body whip or body butter scent for her, as well as a lip balm. She's got the whole set that her customers buy, and she includes in her purchase, as well as like Melissa from My Retreat,
Mm-hmm.
Chocolate Mindfulness. We have specialty lip balms made for her in chocolate truffle scent.
Awesome.
So it doesn't take long for us to come up with that. If it's a product I have that we already
Hmm.
mastered, and that you just want to create your own blend of a scent, it
Hmm.
doesn't take long at all. Just depends on when is the timing of it. Like right now, this time of the year is my busiest time
Sure.
of year, just because of all of the upcoming markets, artisan markets and holiday sales. So right now, to come to me and say, hey, can you make something special for me?
Tomorrow.
I, yeah.
Yeah.
So we'd have to see schedule wise, but it doesn't take long. If it's something
Okay.
that I've already created, if it's something that's new, that all depends on when I have a window to actually to make something new.
Do the
because there's
research
some,
and all that.
yeah,
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
it's good to know
yeah,
that you have these options too, to like white label some things for businesses. I wasn't
absolutely.
aware of that. So that's a
Yeah,
great, you know, when you think about the holidays coming up and stuff like that, like what better way to like feature your business than a branded, you know,
yep,
lip balm. Like you were talking about that. I'm like, yeah, it's coming up on lip balm season for sure.
it
All these
is.
things.
It is. Yeah,
It's important
yeah.
to keep that skin soft and everything throughout the year,
It,
but in particular the dry winters.
dry winters for sure. And you know, a lot of people don't realize or think so. Your skin is your biggest organ, body organ.
Yeah.
And what you're putting on your skin gets absorbed into your bloodstream. And
Yeah.
then if you think about just, I'll just use, we were just talking about lip balms, dry season. So your lips are, you know, it's very thin, and you have to remember what you put on your lips. Also, it's not just being absorbed, it's also being ingested. You're ingesting it also.
Sure. Yeah.
So you really want to make sure what you're using is clean and chemical free before it
So
causes an internal issue for you also.
do any of your products have like you know, coloration or hue or anything like that? Okay. It's just
No,
something I
that's,
just thought of when you were saying like
yeah.
putting on your lips, and I'm thinking lipstick and all that other stuff, and
Hmm.
who knows what's in that.
Yes, yeah, there's a lot of, there's a lot of things that are in our products. There are a lot of things that are hidden in the products also, that even if it's labeled under a fragrance, the manufacturer does not have to disclose what is in the fragrance, and a lot of things get hidden into that category. So yeah, a lot of people don't realize what they're using. And you know, there's always the studies or the arguments of, well, you know, there's only a little bit of it. It's you're having it in little doses, but when you think about, you know, your mouthwash, then your toothpaste, then your skin, that you're the, you know, the soap you're using, then
Mm.
your body wash, and then your sunblock, your moisturizer. So all of those things every day on top of it, it starts to add up. Not even
Yeah.
thinking about your makeup or your lip balms or anything like
Sure.
that.
Sure. It's all good points. Yeah, you know, part of the show is talking a little bit about like others that might be trying to do, you know, something similar in their community or start something up. What do you think was like the biggest challenge that you faced when starting, you know, a business like this?
Um, I'll say COVID. Like I mentioned, I left my corporate job in November. You know, the November just before, you know, the COVID. So that was challenging, but it was also very door opening for me.
Yeah.
Because, you know, a lot of other founders, businesses were very open to having conversations, help me along. I even, there is an influencer in California that I hooked up with. She needed an intern.
Hmm.
And I said, sure, I'll be your intern just so I can learn more about the industry, the people, the buzzwords,
Yeah.
you know. So because leaving the corporate life I have, coming right into a new space, that was, you know, that was a lot to learn. Still is
Yeah.
a lot to learn.
Sure.
Um, but I think, you know, at the end of the day, what helps me keep my focus is seeing the benefits of the products, and seeing and hearing from customers, and organizations how important they think they are, and seeing that benefit, and
Yeah.
seeing repeat customers, you know, meeting people, seeing they use our products, or, you know, things like that. It really fills my heart and keeps it going.
That's great. That's terrific. So kind of like shifting gears a little bit, I want to learn a little bit more about, you know, again, so maybe sort of the transition, right? You were very corporate. Like, what made you decide, you know, to really go all in on something that's not at all something it seems like you've done,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I think what it was, I was just at a point in my career. I loved what I did. I loved my job. I loved the people I worked with. And then when I started, you know, Mona Moon was a side hustle. It was never, you know, intended to be a full blown. Yeah, at the time, it was a side hustle. I never intended it to be, hey, this is going to be my life, my business.
Hmm.
Um, I think that I really enjoy making the products. I really enjoy figuring out the formulas. I don't want to say cracking the code, but kind of cracking the code.
Yeah.
And watching the products come from, just starting playing with it to actually being a product on a shelf. And working with, the marketing folks that I pull in, and creating the new labels and the image and the branding. I was enjoying that entrepreneurial side of saying, okay, this is mine and I'm starting it.
Mm-hmm.
And bonuses, I can see how it's benefiting others. You have the opportunity, I have an opportunity to have clean, natural products available to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And everything is made with recognizable ingredients. You can understand what you read our label, you know what everything is.
Yeah.
I met a friend a couple weeks ago, and his daughter, she is a food scientist dietitian.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that, when he was learning about my business, we worked together for 20 years in the engineering world.
Mm-hmm.
And we just happened to catch up. And his daughter tells all of her patients, if you can't pronounce an ingredient on a jar or a bag of bread or something, you shouldn't be eating it. So it's the same mindset. So
I'm just laughing because I have someone in my life that can't pronounce normal words.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm like, well, then that might not necessarily work for that person.
Yeah.
But no, I get what you're saying. I think that also is a good indicator that it's not the best thing for you. And so cool that yeah, it's so cool that your products are natural and you don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. And we've had a couple guests on our show, I would say a good portion of our guests that have kind of been in the situation, as you, where they're really getting to do what they love to do. And maybe they left something that they loved, but they're really, getting to do all the things that fulfill them. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I love that you have a couple check boxes that you're checking off. There's the engineer in you is sort of satisfied. The person that wants to help others is satisfied. All those things are, important to you. And it's great that you can find an opportunity to kind of check all those boxes.
We do. And it's also, giving back to others is also a very important piece of our business. So, we've been working with the Breast Cancer Coalition since the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Products are given to newly diagnosed patients as they come in their PALS packs. And a percentage of our profits every year go to cancer-related charities in the area. So, and it's usually grassroots organizations that I like to support, just because they don't have that national presence to help fill their funds. So I try to work with small local grassroots organizations.
Yeah, I know that's so wonderful. Thanks for doing that. That's a great impact on the community, and these people that are receiving probably the worst news of their life, right?
Yeah.
And just to give, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, just to give them some products that may provide some comfort for them as they begin their healing process.
You said exactly what I was going to say. So that's. Yeah. But it's so nice that you do something like that for the people around you. And it really kind of keeps going back to that where it started, which, I love about you and organizations that do that, stay true to their, themselves, right?
Yeah. Yep. That's the hope.
Yeah. So what's next? Like, are there any new products on the line that you're thinking about doing that you want to share, or, where do you want to see this, develop in the future?
So really our focus right now is really scaling the business. I think I'm to the point right now of not sure how much bigger we can get the way we're operating right now. We have a production kitchen here, where everything is made. So we're looking to scale the business, and we're looking at, different ways to do that, and actually start to bring in some staff that can work, with us. I have a number of contractors that work with me for different aspects, but I don't have anybody actually helping
On
make
staff.
products on staff wise. So that's the goal. That's the next push for for us. Hopefully in the beginning of next year, we'll be able to start growing and exploring that more. I'd like us really to grow on the retail side and get into other stores outside of the area. We're in some. I just actually, Monday I drove downstate. Our products are now in 2 locations down there. So really trying to grow the name of Mona Moon and building its presence outside of the Rochester area.
Are there any partners that you'd like to mention that have been like really supportive and helpful in your process, or there's probably a long list there?
Yeah, I mean, there've been some great all of our marketing from day one has been 29 Design. Actually, they just changed out the agency 29. They've been a huge help for us. And I've got a lot of mentors. They're not local. Not that matters, but a lot of founders outside of, like I said, that during that COVID period, I was able to find a number of owners, founders, other brands that are willing to talk. I'm really starting to target growing into some national shows, national boutique shows, kind of a thing, just to get awareness and get out there a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, I think, like I said earlier, I think everything that you're doing is super terrific, and everybody needs mentors. Everybody needs a support structure. So it's great that you were able to find that. The pandemic, another kind of horrible thing, kind of helped you in a way, and it helped others, right, too. So I'm giving them the time to kind of meet with you and develop this wonderful product or series of products. So
yes, thank you.
Yeah. It's good, to be able to have something from different, like, negative things become positive. And that was honestly how That Sounds Terrific started initially. It was a show taking different people's, things that they were doing and trying to figure out how did they pivot? And now it's sort of like, it doesn't come up as often. But I'm sort of delighted when it does, because it's just another reminder of, any situation that you're in, you can look for some way to kind of break out of it and be positive. And I'm glad you were
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So, let's talk a little bit more about, pre Mona Moon, and like you have a degree like in engineering, from RIT, if I recall correctly. And so how how did that education, because like a thing that's going on right now in higher education, because I'm in that field, is like there is some pushback onto legitimacy of like, of higher education in general. How did that degree really play a role in like everything that you do? Like, how would you advocate for other engineers to get started, right?
So that's a great question. And I've had this conversation with high school age kids, college age kids. Actually, I have a freshman at MCC, and I have, my daughter's a graduate. She's a teacher out in Rockport.
Wonderful.
So I see different, education. So I always say, I feel that, with my engineering degree, I'm trained to solve problems, any challenges. And if anybody loves math and science, I always say, go for an engineering degree to some degree, just because you'll always be able to put it to use for something. So even in my engineering degree or career, I started, as an engineer, and soon I had to start doing billings and finances and project management, all of these things that I did not learn in school. But because you've got that basis of trying to solve problems, you learn. Yeah. I think that education, going to college isn't for everybody, but I think that there should be training for everybody in a field that they're interested in. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they have to go to a 4-year school or 2-year school, but I'm not sure if a high school education is enough to sustain you in the future. And probably now I'm taking this to somewhere you probably didn't
this is
expect
great.
it to go, but
No.
I kind of feel that really after high school, there should be an extension of another 2 years.
Sure.
Just for a training program, whether it is hands-on training and becoming an electrician or going into becoming a chef, or all of these options should be a part of high school.
Yeah.
Or, extension of high school, because I think you need to have it. You can't just finish high school and you're not a kid who wants to go to college, but there should be something more for you.
Yeah. Workforce development kind of stuff.
And that workforce development should be a part
of it.
The education extension.
Yeah, it's interesting because other countries are doing things like that or have done things like that. And if you look at the cycle of, RIT does co-ops, right? So there's a lot of schools that don't want to do co-ops, but there's internships or almost the same. But just like, the mentorship and the I can't think of the word now, apprenticeship, right?
Yeah.
You look at education as a whole, you look at society as a whole, and we're very cyclical. We seem to always come back to different ideas that happened in the past that kind of phased out for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And I suspect that we're going to see some more of those like workforce development sort of apprenticeships kind of happening for the students that might not be either ready for college at that point or, moving or wanting to go to college at all. Right.
Yeah.
But you bring up a lot of great points. And the reason I wanted to ask is because of the engineering degree. And you're not in a field currently right now where you would think an engineer would be doing something like that. But there's a lot of aspects of that degree, and any degree for that matter, that, a college degree that can help you with business and help you. So the point is, like, going back to what you said earlier, is like, just getting a degree in something like engineering can open doors.
It certainly can. And I personally, I think the co-op portion, like you mentioned, it's so important. So you get the exposure. I mean, I did my first 2 years at Alfred State in architecture and construction. And I honestly didn't know if I wanted to continue in construction or in architecture or go into engineering. Most of my class transferred to RIT and engineering. I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I actually took a year off and I worked for a mechanical contractor just to get out in the field and see it and learn it more and say, okay, this is what I want to do. So that those internships and that exposure, it's so important. And I think it's hard nowadays. And I mean, from where you are, you start off in a path and, students typically change their course several times before they end up finishing a degree that they're passionate about. And when they start to work, if they haven't had that exposure, they're, they kind of are like, okay, I don't want to do this. Now what am I going to do?
Yeah. I mean, I was studying at one point to be a teacher, and then I realized in the classroom that that's not what I wanted to do at that, especially at that age level that I was getting ready to student teach for. And that was towards the end of, my college, experience. So no, I think all of those things are important, but what I like about your story is you are always changing and recreating yourself, and like you were able to do that with this company, while doing a heck of a lot of good and continuing forward. That's still strong in your mission, which I think is terrific. So so moving back to Mona Moon and talking just a little bit more about of the different things that that your company is doing. What else sort of inspires you, to continue in that direction?
What inspires me is seeing other brands that have grown from a small business like myself and how they are now national brands.
Sure.
So that's very, very inspiring for me, and to read the stories of the founders, how they did it and how they managed it, and just finding the right partners to partner with. And I really enjoy finding partners and finding other people that are willing to have conversations, because I learn a lot from having conversations with different people of what their journey was. No journey is the same for anybody, but finding founders who are willing to have conversations It's very inspiring for me, and especially when they also have their businesses started because they were trying to solve a problem for somebody they loved.
Mhm.
So that for me has been the biggest connection, and that I have so much joy when I find
Mhm.
others and that have done the same, and we're all trying to create a better world. There, our space, this natural skincare space, is only growing.
Yeah.
And there's room for all of us, and finding and connecting with those who feel that way and they're willing to share is
Mhm.
bonus.
Yeah.
So that really helps me. There's times I'm really frustrated. I'm like, geez, I've been trying to get into this particular location. I can't get a phone call. I can't get this. So it's like, okay, well, I let it
Mhm.
go, on to the next thing. So, and then it's interesting, a month later, all of a sudden it comes back. So
Yeah.
that's fun.
Yeah. It's kind of like someone once called me the human puzzle architect, or something along that lines, right? Um, and it was because of things like that, where I would just be talking to you, and then like 10 minutes later I have another conversation with someone else who's looking for skincare products, and like, I gotta
Yeah.
connect this. And it's just amazing how often that happens with me. But I think what you've done and what you're continuing to do is very inspiring. And there's a podcast in what you just talked about that really is, I'm like, not to give you something else to worry about or do, but to
Yeah.
talk to other CEOs that are going through the stories that they're sharing are worth telling. And I mean, feel free to, like,
I was just going to say, we can
yeah,
have that conversation on the
sure,
sidebar, because that is something I have thought about. I do have a founder friend who does she does like she doesn't do a podcast, but she does like a Facebook live with the
sure,
founder. And I'm like, just even in our area alone in Rochester, we have such a deep, um, there's so many entrepreneurs, there's so many people that have reinvented themselves, there's so many businesses that
yeah,
are out there that others they're not aware of. And how do we tap into that and share it with others? So yeah, that is definitely a platform I have thought about. So maybe there's
cool,
more of a conversation there for us in that.
for sure, for sure. So here's the part of the show where sometimes people get stumped, but hopefully you won't. You've been very good at just going along with everything I ask you. So, but
Sure.
this is the part where, like, is there anything that I haven't asked you or talked about that you definitely want to share about Mona Moon, or your experience, or whatever?
I just the only thing there's a couple things I'll just share. So
Yeah.
it's our hashtag is Pace with Purpose. I mean, we are
Hmm.
recording this. It is October, Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Yeah.
So some people ask, why is our hashtag Pace with Purpose? And it is because, like I mentioned, our deodorant paste you apply with your fingers. So we advocate for everybody to, as you are applying your deodorant, you check for lumps and bumps underneath your arms, and then take
Yeah.
a moment to check your breast. It's important to know what your body feels like at any age.
Hmm.
And this is something, it's not, breast cancer is not an over 40,
Yeah.
um, it's not an over 40, something, it doesn't happen to
Yeah.
you only when you're over 40,
Can happen to anyone,
it can
and
happen to
men
anyone
should
at
be
any
looking.
time.
Men should be
Men,
looking as well.
there's several men that, yes, that I've been introduced to now through the years as I've been doing this. So it's really important for us to know what our body feels like. I will say what my mother always told my sister and I, because we have a very long history of breast cancer. So
Yeah.
had we not had this ingrained in our head, my sister more than likely would have not caught her breast cancer at the
Hmm.
time when she did. You don't use a washcloth, you don't use a loofah, you use,
Yeah.
soap, or put on your hands, know what you feel like. And if something doesn't feel right, you automatically call your doctor and have it checked.
Yeah. And
Um,
don't stop there if you still don't feel right. Get a
and yeah,
second opinion.
and if you're not comfortable with what your doctor has said, by all means, go get a second opinion.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Someone
So
very,
that's,
very close to me kept pushing, kept pushing, kept pushing. And
yep,
they did find something, and luckily it was benign and removed. But yeah, it could have developed into something more. So
absolutely.
super
Absolutely.
important to be, if you know your body, right? You know your body, and you know what you're feeling, to kind of be persistent. And if that
Yep.
professional isn't seeing something, then go get
Yeah.
a second opinion.
Yeah. And also, with regards to products that you're using. If you are interested and if you want to use cleaner, safer products, there are apps out there that help you find those products. EWG has got a great app. You can have it on your phone.
Mhm.
You're at the store, you're trying to find laundry detergent. I'll just
Yeah.
use that as an example. You scan the barcode, it will tell you
What's in it?
what's in it, what is not good. I mean, it actually will define what, it's a fragrance. So you yourself make the decision. Is it worth it? Is it not worth it?
Sure.
But it'll also give you some examples of cleaner products that you can use. So
That's a wonderful tip.
yeah, you can also advocate for yourself. And anybody that's listening, if you have any questions or you're trying to find cleaner, safer makeup brands, I'm happy to share with you what I have used, what I like, what I don't like. Anytime. I'm answering questions for people all the time. So anytime, reach out, send me an email, send me a note through Instagram, Facebook, whatever it is, and I'll get back to you with some info.
Yeah, and all that information, all her contact information will be in the show notes. We will definitely have you have the ability to get connected with Mona, but I would suggest that you check out her products as well and order some, test it out for yourself and get a feel for the naturalness and know how to pronounce everything in those ingredients.
Yes, you'll know what every ingredient is.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Mona, so much for being on. That sounds terrific.
Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was a great conversation, and I'm looking forward to continuing that both, offline and maybe in a future episode we'll have you on again.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So thanks again.
Yeah. Thanks. Take care.
Thank you for joining us in another episode of That Sounds Terrific. Don't forget to check out the show notes and our website at thatsoundsterrific.com to find the contact information and the best ways to volunteer with the organizations that we feature. If you know someone that is doing terrific things and think they should be featured in a future episode, be sure to email us their name, contact info, and short description of what they're doing at thatsoundsterrific@gmail.com. If you like our show, give us a 5-star rating and give us some social media love by liking our Facebook page, That Sounds Terrific. Follow us on Twitter at Sounds Terrific too, and Instagram at Sounds Terrific. We love hearing your feedback on how to make our show sound even more terrific. Till next time.